Welcome to Priceless Takes.
And we are live from the Gold Coast, Australia. Welcome back, everyone, to Priceless Takes, episode 62. I am your host, Luka Price, and joining me today, we have two of our usual panelist members, Tyson and Reuben, and new to the panel, a first-time guest on the show, Mr. Thomas Hanson. All three of you, how are you guys today?
I'm good.
Yeah, doing good, man.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm excited about
Solid.
the off-season. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that is what has happened since we last spoke. The Boston Celtics beat the Dallas Mavericks in 5 games. So, Tyson, kudos to you for picking that series right on the panel, as well as second year running. Tyson, you have led the panel in the overall playoff predictor standings. So, congratulations to you on that as well. Oscar isn't here today, so Tom is stepping in. And Tom, for those of you that don't know, is a big Knicks fan. So, Tom, do you want to speak briefly about your Knicks fandom and how happy you are with them recently?
I mean, recently I'm pretty happy with them. We just traded to get Mikal Bridges, but I'm just a bit annoyed over the playoffs getting knocked out. But what can you do? We get injured. Pacers easily got through, but what can you do? But next season, this is our year. We're gonna win it all.
Look, you certainly could be right, and that's what we're going to get into, because since the end of the NBA Finals, we have had a lot going on, not only in the start of free agency, but before the start of free agency, where we had a blockbuster trade, which saw, as Tom just mentioned, the New York Knicks trading 5 first-round picks to acquire Mikal Bridges from the Brooklyn Nets. Now, funny side note about this deal, guys, it's the first time since 1982 that these two teams that are so close to each other have completed a trade transaction, and they got this one done. Now, the Villanova... You guys hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Sorry, my headphones just went awry for a second. Sorry about that, guys. Back to Mikal Bridges. The Villanova core is back together with Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, and Dante DiVincenzo. Now, on the other side of things, their crosstown rivals, not the Brooklyn Nets, the Philadelphia 76ers, signed Paul George to a monstrous deal, taking him away from the Clippers, 4 years, $212 million deal. They also signed Tyrese Maxey to a 4-year, $205 million deal, extending him. So they used up both those max slots. Now, the projected lineups, we see both of these teams. Now they add George. The Sixers, the Knicks will likely add Bridges into the starting lineup and have Julius Randle back. Now, Tom, I do want to ask you, I know which move you think is better, but why do you think the Bridges move is better than Paul George?
Well, Paul George is the most injury-prone player I've ever seen in my life. It's him, Anthony Davis, just injured all the time. And Paul George has never... If you watch over previous playoffs, he's never shown up in the playoffs. He's never been that guy. Mikal Bridges, he's been to the finals with the Phoenix Suns. He brings that championship or aspirations to the New York Knicks. He's won it in Villanova with Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart. He knows how to win basketball games. Paul George does not know how to do it. I can speak on when he had his best season at OKC. He got knocked out by a rookie, Donovan Mitchell. He's... And how old is he now? 34, 35? He's too old, man. He's going to be the third option on this team. I can't see it. I can't see them going past the second round, the 76ers.
Yeah, Tom said it pretty well. In my opinion, the Bridges move is way better. Paul George, playoff pretender to begin with, injury-prone player, adding it to another injury-prone team, the 76ers, who also are playoff pretenders to begin with. So I don't see how that works. It's not a good look. He's getting old. Pretty big contract for not that much quality. As we're compared to the Knicks. Although giving up 5 first-round picks, you're adding someone who knows how to win, someone who's the opposite of injury-prone. He's played, every game in his career?
482 straight
every
games.
single game. So definitely what the Knicks were missing last playoff series. The injury aspect, he'll be there to replace. He's got that great team chemistry. He knows how to win, so I reckon it's just a great move for them.
Look, don't get me wrong. Paul George he's a great player, but I think the contract is too long. When you give him $200 million across 4 years, that's going to go into his 18th, 19th season. Is he going to have that same longevity? We just don't know. And Philadelphia are only going to be fully effective when they're all healthy, as Tom and Tyson have pointed out. And we haven't seen Embiid be fully fit for the playoffs, and we haven't even seen him play well in the playoffs like he does in the regular season. And that's that thing too. But the Knicks, why this trade is better, and it's the Villanova chemistry for me. Like, you had Dante DiVincenzo, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges all play for the same team. So having that chemistry come around, especially in the playoffs, is going to elevate them to that next level. And I don't even think the Knicks are done yet with their roster. I still think they need to add another big in, especially losing Hardenstein. And I think Mitchell Robinson's not always the most reliable when it comes to health. So, yeah, I think the Knicks trade was better.
I'm going to throw it back at you, Rubes, and I guess this is a question for everyone, but obviously Philadelphia needed to get better. Aside from maybe getting Jimmy Butler back from Miami, which I think is maybe the obvious answer to this question, what do you think they should have actually done to get better? Because it seems like, I think you guys are being really harsh on this Paul George transaction to the Sixers.
Well, Luka, why are we being harsh? Like, it's $200 million on 4 years. This just seems like another Tobias Harris contract. And if it doesn't work out, they're stuck on the contract. It's the same
get
issue.
that, but I don't think Philadelphia's worried about the long-term implications. I think they had to give up that money in order to sign Paul George. I think they're more concerned with winning now, because you look at what Tom said. You have Embiid, who is an injury-prone superstar, but if you, and this is a big if, right? But if Philadelphia win one championship, then that validates that whole Paul George contract. That validates the entire deal. And they could win a championship next year and then get rid of him, and he could still be a horrible contract for the next 3 years after that. But that Paul George signing is still like a successful signing. I just think with Embiid and Embiid now, we saw him, even though he was injured, he had his best playoffs he ever had. Even though they lost, like, at least for once in his playoff career, he wasn't like, he was complaining in this series, but he wasn't like, he wasn't letting his complaining affect his play. He still played good. He averaged like 30 points per game in the series. And I think the coaching of Nick Nurse is something to do with that. And I think that's going to help the Sixers too. I just think I understand the deal, but do you think in the immediate impact, even though Paul George is still 34, he still can get buckets. And he still can get buckets. Now, we can't underestimate that. And with Tobias Harris, we all think Paul George is a lot better than Tobias Harris. He's an upgrade from that. Like, surely Philadelphia, despite the unattractiveness of Paul George's long-term deal, they have gotten better now.
I think, look, like, I'll have to concede that Philadelphia have made other necessary moves. Like, they've brought in Eric Gordon, they've brought Andre Drummond in for the offensive rebounds. But I'm looking at this point of view that, like, in the long run, it'll be better for the Knicks. And I think we're deviating away from super teams too. Like, you look at the big three Suns that flopped, the big three Nets that flopped. We've seen other super teams that just haven't worked out in the last couple of years. I think we're slowly deviating away from a narrative of building a big two instead of building a big eight. It's what your players can also do coming off the bench. And that's why, like, we'll talk about it later, but Denver losing KCP, I think, is going to be massive for them because you need someone else filling in for that spot. And it's who you're going to get in for that low amount of money that they have to replace that production from them.
Yeah, I also think like with the Sixers, right? Like it takes a whole basketball team to win championships, and you saw that with the Boston Celtics. Their whole team is good. Like their whole team, like you got Derek White, Jaylen Brown has been amazing, and their team, like you saw, it was just in the last playoff against the Knicks. It was just Maxey Embiid the whole time. Their role players were terrible. Obviously, Tobias Harris didn't show up. Oubre wasn't great. Buddy Hield had one good game. They need good role players. So I think, honestly, they did the right thing by getting Eric Gordon and Andre Drummond, but you're going to ask a lot out of Jared McCain, just a rookie, if they actually want to get anywhere in the playoffs.
Yeah, look, I can see an argument as it being too harsh, but if we're going purely off like what we've seen through our eyes of playoff P and his whole career and what he brings, I don't see it being that successful comparing like since you're
Listen,
going to
and this is where I want to defend Paul George a little bit because he's had his shortcomings, but we can't just act like he's been a complete bum in the playoffs, okay?
Oh, no,
because he
yeah,
has had.
he's
He-
had
and
he's
I-
had
and I-
performances, yes, like Indiana Pacers
Yeah.
days, OKC, he's been balling, but
It's 2024 now.
too
Man.
recently there hasn't been that many, playoff P performances that we are expecting from the guy. And he's only getting older. And for him going to the 76ers is going to be a third option. I don't know how that will sit with him because I don't think he's played as a third option before, besides his rookie year, probably. So,
And this is the problem I do have is he sort of did play as a third option when Harden came to the Clippers. And this is why I am torn on this, because Harden sort of became like the second option in a way, but then Kawhi was injured, so then Paul George was like the 1 or the 1A or the 2. But I think that's up to like also because the Clippers were just so dysfunctional with their injuries, like Paul George's role was constantly changing. And I think with the Sixers, I guess Embiid does have that same dysfunction, but Tyrese Maxey has always been pretty available for his whole career. And personally, I just think that the Sixers have now put themselves in the best position to win a championship than they have since their days of Allen Iverson. And that's why I think they're at least going for it. And I think this is the move that signals that they're going for it and they want it. Now, like I said, we've been harsh on Paul George, but when he was with the Clippers, when Kawhi went out, I say the same thing over and over again. I saw him lead them to the conference finals. I saw him in a Game 5 elimination game at Phoenix drop 41 points and extend the series. In the end, it was too much. But he still has showed up in some big moments. Obviously, this year, it wasn't great. But, I still think that we can't just dismiss that. Especially because Tobias Harris has done a lot worse than Paul George has done in the playoffs. And I think if Tobias Harris in spots, if that's Paul George instead of Tobias Harris, I think Philadelphia goes further.
I don't look. I'm just if we're going off historically, right? So, if MB can stay healthy because he hasn't been able to yet. I personally think the best ever Philadelphia team since Iverson was actually 2019.
I was gonna say
when they were that
2019.
Kawhi buzzer
Yeah.
beater away from actually making the conference finals, and I'm confident they could have beaten Milwaukee and maybe they could have done something against Golden State. Well, they had Jimmy Butler and JJ Redick. That was a team right there. It went to 7 games, Luka.
Ben Simmons too.
Yeah, and Ben Simmons too. But obviously, there's been that fall off. But
Obviously not.
I don't even want to dismiss Philadelphia, but I'm just looking at the competition and I go, well, they're better than Philadelphia, and that's why I'm just unsure. If they're healthy, then it's a discussion. But we haven't seen them healthy, which is why I have my concerns.
Yeah, I agree. I do want to switch because I do want to talk more about the Knicks. And I want to talk about this Bridges deal. I was personally surprised how when the Knicks got Mikal Bridges, there was a lot of discourse on OG Anunoby's he's obviously going to leave in free agency. And I heard a lot of this talk he's going to leave. And I was thinking to myself, that doesn't make sense. Why would he leave in free agency? This is the whole reason they got Mikal Bridges was to keep OG Anunoby. And you look at what Minnesota did this year with Denver. You look at what New York seems to be doing with Boston. Tom, I want to throw it back to you. I want to know, how do you think this move with Bridges puts them in a position to compete with the Celtics, who are the standard right now in the NBA?
Well, listen, with the Knicks, they didn't have a big player last season with Julius Randle. He's very injury prone, and now they've got a guy that they can actually count on during the whole playoffs. You don't have to, you saw the way the Knicks played throughout the whole playoffs. It was Jalen Brunson set me up the whole time. Now Jalen Brunson doesn't have to carry so much. He can dish it off to Mikal Bridges, and Mikal Bridges can either guard their best player, takes a bit of pressure over OG Anunoby as well. And against the Celtics, you've got guys now that can cover their best players. You got OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges who can guard Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown now. And Julius Randle, his weight is going to be lifted up a little bit now. He's going to be able to just find his spots and get to his spots now. I think they've got a great chance against the Celtics this season. I think they've really set themselves up with success. They're trying to build a big team chemistry. this season, and I think they've done that. I think a few more moves, but yeah, I think they're looking good. They just need to get a center that they can rely on after losing Hartenstein.
I do want to follow up because yes, we know they lost Hartenstein, but I want to know more about Julius Randle and his fit in this team, and two, with regards to the other Villanova players, we saw. DiVincenzo and Hart, they both emerged these playoffs, and now we're just going to put them back on the bench after they both became starters in the playoffs. And especially, like, Hart was obviously, like, the glue guy, but DiVincenzo straight up just shot the lights out in the playoffs. Like, how do you think, like, with the addition of Bridges and the changes to the starting lineup, with now Randle coming back, them going back to the bench, does Randle stay? I want to know your general thoughts on the team with that.
Yeah, so like during the season, they got to experiment with that. They might not get the first seed because you got to experiment what's going to work throughout the playoffs. But they're going to change. You can see them changing the starting lineups against certain teams. Against like a team like the Celtics, yes, I'd put Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby, Randle, and then Robinson for now. But against like a smaller team or a shorter team, like 76ers, for example, you would have Brunson, and then you would put like Dante DiVincenzo for some more shooting, or then you'd put Josh Hart in if Randle is losing his touch a little bit, which he has done previous in the playoffs. But I think just a bit of experimenting throughout the season, I think. And Tom Thibodeau, like, he's got a lot of experience as a coach. He knows what he needs to do, and yeah, he'll sort it out. As long as he just doesn't play his players 48 minutes in the playoffs, which I don't think will happen, but I think the Knicks will be all right throughout the playoffs.
I think it'll still happen. Tyson, your thoughts?
I don't think so.
Yeah, look, Tom said it pretty well. Like, they've obviously Tibbs, great coach, and they have plenty of time to experiment. And while they're experimenting, like, they're obviously not going to lose that many games because they're still a great team regardless. And purely off that team chemistry, like, I'm pretty sure all players are comfortable. You know, who's got the spotlight? If you're feeling hot, you get the ball. So, like, I don't think it would really hurt them as a player coming off the bench because, like, that's what the team needs. You know, that's why it's a team sport. You know, they're going to adapt to their roles. They know what to do, and I think it just works out perfectly for them.
Look, I don't know if any of you guys have watched this, but the Roommates show with Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson, I absolutely love the podcast, and I watched the episode with Tom Thibodeau on it, and I think he put it so eloquently well. It's not about how you do at the start of the season. Like, if you start off well, it helps, but it's what you do after the trade deadline that really matters. And that's when they really ramp up the minutes because they're getting themselves prepared for the playoffs. And I think adding on to the minutes argument, I don't think players will need to play 48 minutes because they have that depth now with those extra players. And I think the Knicks to get over the line, I know Luka, you've chatted about this before, but I would think about getting rid of Julius Randle for potentially a really good big. Like, you could speculate on particular potential trades that you could do, but personally, I would offload Julius Randle to get a good center, and then I think that could elevate them to another level. Because if you get that center, it's a better matchup with Embiid, and it's a better matchup for Porzingis, especially when Porzingis last season was able to exploit post matchups so much. Because the Celtics are such a big team, and if the Knicks can get bigger, they can combat that and potentially get over that hurdle.
Yeah, look, Reuben and I, we have had off-camera conversations about Julius Randle, and for me, I think it's a bit of a power dynamic thing too, because I think that before Julius Randle got injured, and even when you look at the Knicks last year, like in last season, they beat the Cavaliers in round 1, then they lost to the Heat. It was kind of like Brunson and Randle were kind of like a 1A, 1B, like, you know, they're like two stars together. But I think post Randle's injury this year, I think Brunson, and I don't think this is indisputable, that he has firmly established himself as the clear one on that team. Like, Brunson now, he is the guy. He is that budding superstar post Julius Randle injury, where I don't think the dynamic was like that beforehand. And we've seen, Tom, you mentioned in the past, we've seen Julius Randle get frustrated very easily with the Knicks fans. We've seen it happen with other franchises he's been a part of too. And I don't know how it's going to go with, one, they've just traded for one of Brunson and Co's, like, college mates, best friends. Like, there's 4 of them on the team now. Brunson has established himself as the number 1 star. You've come back. They did better this year without you than they did with you last year when they did have you, like, marginally, but the health impacted that too. I would argue they did better this year without him than they did last year with him. And I wonder if Julius Randle is going to just be feeling a bit out of place. That's just genuinely my thoughts on it. But Reuben, I don't know. I haven't thought too much about who they could go out and get. I don't know if you have any real thoughts. We talked about Embiid, but I don't think he's leaving now because of the Paul George thing. So who do they actually go out and target?
Okay, Luka, we spoke off camera and I had a few ideas and I'm like, it's not working. But one that I thought of a couple of days ago, I haven't mentioned to you, maybe Karl Anthony Towns, because he didn't look happy after they got exited. So there's a potentiality that, like, the Timberwolves might not want to move with Cat forward, especially his poor playoff performance. The contracts could match up. That could be a potential option, maybe, but it would have to involve a 3-team trade, 100%.
But don't you think he's just, like, a slightly better version of Rand? I feel like just what you were talking about, they need, like, a real big. I don't think Cat is really the answer for them.
Yeah, I think, like, I just think anything, like, better than Randall. Like, look, it might not be Cat, but I think you're right. Like, they need a center. I think all the pieces around them, they can shoot the 3 ball well enough. And, look, it'd be handy if the center could shoot the 3. I know Hardenstein can't shoot the 3, but he was very effective in the dribble handoffs. But I definitely think they need some sort of big, especially if Mitchell Robinson's out. So whether it's Cat, they just need a big.
I mean, I would not trade Julius, if I'm honest. I just can't see anyone that. Yeah, I mean, I would not get Cat really. Cat's like, they're pretty similar. And Cat, yeah, as you said, like, he had a very bad playoff again, especially against the Mavericks. I don't know. I get, like, I don't think Randall's going to be frustrated on this team. Like, he's got, like, I feel like they've got all the guys that, and they've got a connection. I just don't understand why he'd be mad about that. He's still going to be the second option on this team. And you'll definitely take being the second option on a championship level roster than being the first option on, like, the Detroit Pistons. You know what I mean? Like, I can't see a place where Randall is going to get upset with the Knicks fans. I understand that earlier when RJ Barrett was the second option and they managed to make it to the playoffs against the Atlanta Hawks, but I just can't see it. But you're definitely right. They do need a center bad. The only one I can really think of that would, I don't know how they're going to get him, but a big player that would be for us would be like a Miles Turner, that sort of player, someone that can space out, get shot block. He can challenge Embiid a little bit. Embiid's obviously going to get his buckets, but I feel like a player like that or that caliber is going to be someone that the Knicks could maybe look for later down the line.
Yeah.
Look,
you go, Review.
No, you go, Tyson. No, Tyson, you go. You go, Tyson.
No, I was going to say, I haven't really had much thought about what bigs are available at the moment, like who's ready to go. But I think Randall will just slot back in, like, somewhat like feasible. Like, I don't think there'll be, like, many issues with him coming in. Like Tom said, still a second option, still going to get the rock. It's just you've got better players around, you know. So when he does have a bad performance, people are there to step up, and I don't think it will degrade him that much as a player.
My problem with Randall is that in my opinion, he's a good regular season player, but I think when it comes to the playoffs, there have been times where he's become a bit of a liability. Like, I look at Miami, New York, he didn't perform well, and then Atlanta, when it was just Trae Young, he seemed to just disappear in the big moments. So I think just getting to that top level, I'm not sure if Julius Randle is that answer for that, even as a second option. So I've got concerns about Julius Randle, which is why I'd move him on. I mean, his value in terms of market would not be too bad, and you would be able to get something decent back for him. I'm just not sure about his fit in the team. And as Luka pointed out, you've got 4 Villanova teammates now. I just don't know where he fits.
Yeah, I'm just looking at my list right now. There's a couple of people I think they could. I don't think they need a center that shoots. I think they were successful without having a shooting center. Mikal Bridges, adding him, he's a very good shooter. OG's a good shooter. Jalen's a good shooter. DiVincenzo's a good shooter. Hart, when he in the playoffs, is a good shooter. He wasn't really in the regular season. Like Juice McBride showed a lot of flashes. Like he's a good shooter. And I think like Robinson, they were successful without him being a shooter. Hartenstein, they were successful without him being a shooter because Hartenstein's best attributes was his offensive rebounding. Now, if you have a center that's out there shooting, that makes it a hell of a lot harder to get from the three-point line inside and get offensive boards. So I don't think they actually really need a shooter. Just looking at the people that come to mind here, particularly ones that could actually be available for trade, the first name that could be is Clint Capella on the Hawks. Like, when he was in Houston, he was very good, and he's still very serviceable on the Hawks, and he's been sort of just rotting in Atlanta, and he's got a fair few more bricks in his back pocket than someone like a Mitchell Robinson, who's still a bit on the skinnier side. The other person that could also... These other two are on teams that I think are contending with the Knicks, so I don't think would actually be reasonable, but Jarrett Allen and Brook Lopez are the other two names that I'm just looking that I think would be better fits. More so Jarrett Allen. I think Brook Lopez, not so much, but I think you don't need a shooting center. But I didn't like Jarrett Allen this year, and he seemed like there was a bit of controversy with him in the playoffs, with like him being injured and sort of playing. But when I look at that list, I look at Clint Capella, and the other person who I look at who had some really good moments on the Celtics, and he's just been forgotten about because he's been injured, is Robert Williams, who's just rotting away on the Trailblazers. Someone like that. He used to be an absolute beast on defense when he was with the Celtics. So that's another big if. But I do think there are definitely some targets. If there's one thing we know about a team like Portland, they're willing to trade with anyone for anything because they don't care anymore. If there's one thing we know about the Hawks, they're kind of in a rebuild mode. So I don't see why they wouldn't... Well, I guess we're yet to be seen if they're in a rebuild mode, actually. I take that back. They do still have Trae Young, but they have the number one pick. Like, you could get Clint Capella for them. And, like, Trae Young, they would... If you did want to trade Julius Randle, that would make an actual reasonable offer. And you would even get some maybe compensation back from the Hawks. Compensation that you lost in that Mikal Bridges trade. So that's just the obvious target when I look at that list is someone like Capella, who I would get if I were the Knicks.
I really like Capella. I think looking at that Hawks trade with DeJounte Murray, they could easily rob them because, like, it was like DeJounte Murray for like a pack of chips and a pair of socks. Like, that trade was absolutely disgusting. So they could easily fleece him for Clint Capella, and the Hawks could easily give some stuff back to the Knicks.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tom, final thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the Clint Capella sort of trade. Yeah, Robert Williams, actually, his stock's going to be quite low right now, so I wouldn't mind going out and getting him.
I feel like that's a big, like, low-risk, high-reward scenario, really.
Definitely see that. But, yeah, Clint Capella's not a bad option because I know that surely the Hawks eventually are going to get Onyeka Okongwu to start for them, so I don't know, but we'll see what happens. But, yeah, definitely a big center. Come to the Knicks, surely.
Yeah, well, we are going to move on because we have just spent half an hour talking about the Knicks. I do like the Knicks. I'm interested to see, you know me, guys, I was big on them at the start of the season, so now I feel like there won't be too many hot takes on the Knicks because a lot of people are expecting a lot more out of them this year. But I want to switch to the Western Conference and talk about the one seed in the Western Conference, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They've made some big moves, and we're going to stick with the Western Conference after that. They traded Josh Giddey, who just fell out of the rotation in the playoffs. We hate to see him go as our fellow countryman, but he's gone to the Bulls for Alex Caruso, the Hustle Player of the Year winner. They also signed Knicks center Isaiah Hartenstein to a 3-year, $87 million contract. The projected lineup for them is SGA, Caruso, J-Dub, Chet, and Hartenstein. Tyson, how much better do these moves make the Thunder for next season?
They just got better. I can't believe they just got a really good defending guard who can shoot the ball for Josh Giddey, who he's decent. Don't get me wrong, but towards the end of the season he was unplayable. And then getting a solid center Hartenstein, he really just upped his stock in that playoff series. Like he looks like an absolute solid center. Don't think I think pretty good contact for him. He's showing he's worth the money. So, and then they've also signed back like Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins, like two young. Sorry, Aaron's quite young. Not sure how old Isaiah Joe is, but they've got their key pieces back, and they've upgraded guard center positions, and they're looking to run it back again. So I think it's very good moves for them. They look quite strong.
Tom?
I mean, I get what the Bulls are going for, but man, that's a bad trade for them. Yeah, I love Alex Caruso for the Thunder. He's going to provide shooting. He's going to provide defense. He's going to provide hustle, as you said. Yeah, I love it. Getting Hartenstein, he stole it from the Knicks, so I'm not happy about that. But obviously the Knicks couldn't offer the $87 million contract. So, yeah, I love this for them. I think Caruso is going to be a big player. You got J-Dub getting better. SGA, I think he's going to go for MVP again this season. I like their chances in the West.
Yeah, look, I think
is.
Tom put it really well. Like, I don't really have that much to add. Like, I saw Josh Giddey became a bit of a liability in the playoffs. I think that was one game he only played like 10 minutes. So I think Caruso getting that defense and getting that 3-point shooting is just going to elevate them to another level. And that veteran leadership as well. Like, Caruso being in that 2020 Lakers team, he knows what it's like to win. And when you've got such a young roster, he's going to be able to foster them all and get them to that next level. And for the Bulls, like I was talking to Oscar about it, he actually seemed like he was fine with it, but I was like, this is a terrible trade for the Bulls. Like, yeah, Josh Giddey can get his numbers, but he's not going to get them to being close to a winning team.
Yeah, I mean, I still think, in a way, I think the Josh Giddey part of it, I think, confirms that they're just done with Lonzo Ball, because if Lonzo Ball was going to come back, I don't see why you go get Josh Giddey. That doesn't make sense. So I think that's the other thing too, because like Caruso is a really good player, like, and it's a player that a team like the Thunder needs, like you said, Reuben. But yeah, and the other thing with the Bulls, we might talk about this a bit later. Tyson might be more interested in this later. Is now it seems like DeMar DeRozan wants out too, because of what's happened with the Giddey trade. That's the reports that I've heard. And he's looking for a new contract too. He's the last domino in free agency. The Bulls have just been in mediocrity for quite some time now. They've made the playoffs like when they had the D Wade, Jimmy Butler, like Pete era there, and that's about it. They haven't really done anything. Like they still have Vucevic, they have Levine, but Levine might want to get traded too. Like we don't really know. So it doesn't make sense. I think it only makes sense for the Bulls because they want like their point guard for the future. That's the only reason that makes sense for them, and that's not Lonzo Ball. For the Thunder, I think it's a great trade. I think it's a great trade, but I think overall the person that actually benefits the most from the trade and also the signing is the development of Chet Holmgren, because he is a very good shot blocker, but he wasn't like the best, like biggest body to have always in the middle of your defense. So now I like him being able to defend on the perimeter, and I also like his ability to be on the weak side and to be able to block shots from that as well, because he was like, I think he led, oh no, he wasn't led, he was top 3 I think in blocks this year. I think it was him, Wemby and Rudy Gobert. I'm pretty sure. It was definitely in the top 5. So I like that for Chet Holmgren too, and I like that hopefully having Hartenstein there means Chet can focus more offensively, because he's also very gifted offensively. Now, the other thing I'm interested to see with the Caruso trade is how it works with Lou Dort. I was sort of thinking, do they sort of go for what the Knicks were doing, and they want to have like a body for Luka, a body for Kyrie, 2 bodies to rotate with Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves, that sort of thing. I still think they keep Lou Dort, because I think he did pretty good in the playoffs, and he's been a guy who's been there since the beginning. But I think, what you said, Tyson, at the beginning is, for a team like that, they don't need to make, at least not right now, an overwhelming, change. Like, they got a little bit better in positions they needed to get better in, and that's all you can really ask.
Agreed.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
Sticking with the Western Conference, another domino that fell. Klay Thompson, his run has finally ended with the Warriors. It seemed like it was a bit of a rocky ending to be honest with you guys. He unfollowed them on Instagram. There was a report that came out. I can't remember who reported on it, but that he told Steph to not like bargain for him, and the Warriors didn't want to keep him. But in that same breath, it was also reported the Warriors offered him a 2-year, $48 million deal, and he declined that to take a 3-year, $50 million deal with the NBA Western Conference finalist, the Dallas Mavericks. So now we have Luka, we have Kyrie, we have Klay. The Mavericks lost Derek Jones Jr. to the Clippers. They added Najee Marshall from the Pelicans. Rubes, how good of a fit is Klay with the Mavericks?
I think he's a good fit. He's a flat-out three-point shooter. He's a high-volume three-point shooter. So, I know Luka Doncic, especially Luka Doncic, was attempting a lot of threes. So, I think his three-point attempts will be going down, and I think it will really help with the three-point percentage, especially in the finals against Boston. Like, Boston didn't shoot well, but Dallas were even worse. There were times I was shooting 20% from three. So, Klay's obviously going to elevate that. He's a solid defender. Like, before injury, he was a great defender, but he's a solid defender. So, look, I can see the Mavericks getting better. I don't know if they're going to make the conference finals again, but, I mean, looking at this trade, I think that Klay fits well with the Mavericks.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. I think it's a great fit.
Yeah.
3-point shooting's definitely necessary for them, considering, the only person that was stepping up in those last few games was Josh Green, and especially if Luka's getting blitzed off those high screens, he's got someone to pass to who's a solid shooter. Forget the 0-10 elimination game, but we still have a solid shooter in Klay Thompson who will knock down those shots. So I reckon it's a great fit for them.
Yeah, look, like Luka just needs help, man. At this point, like you saw in the finals, like you triple team Luka. Like Kyrie was lost out there, except for like 1 or 2 games maybe. But like now that you got Klay Thompson, you got a guy who you can kick it to, and you can count on him hitting it like nearly 40% of the time. So it's going to be. I like the fact that they've moved on from Tim Hardaway Jr. They've moved on from Derek Jones Jr. They need to resample and get back to the finals, and I love this for them. I think they're going to be contending once again this year.
Yeah, that was the other part I didn't say. They traded Tim Hardaway Jr. for Quentin Grimes. They did a deal with the Pistons.
Yeah.
I did like that as well. But yeah, I think what you said, Tom, you nailed it. I think Klay Thompson is going to be getting a boatload of open threes. And the other thing I think that I like about this is I think you could just tell with the Warriors that it just wasn't working anymore. And it just seemed like Klay had lost that spark that he once had with the Warriors. Now, I hope that's because the actual spark was lost with the teammates and the organization, and not because he's aging and because he's come off 2 big injuries still. But the way I see this is I think he could totally revitalize himself in Dallas. You have a team that's once again contending, and they're going to be relying on him to make timely plays for them. And I think it's also such a full circle moment that now he and Kyrie are teammates after all the battles they had years ago. So I think when you have Luka and Kyrie doing their thing, and you can just have Klay Thompson sitting in the corner waiting for threes, I think that's something that the Mavericks just haven't had. And particularly if they have PJ Washington, who we saw in the playoffs, you could rely on him to make threes, like particularly in the NBA Finals, he wasn't as effective, but as we said, the whole team, that was a whole team thing. You look at Klay Thompson on one side, you look at PJ Washington, like I think closing is going to be great for them. And I think this is going to revitalize Klay. It's a fresh start for him, and it seems like he needed a fresh start after everything that happened with the Warriors.
Yeah, I just think like Doncic and LeBron are very similar players, so they're really good playmakers. So when they can't, like as Tom was saying, when they're getting double and triple team, they need to kick it out for a 3, and they need like players to step up and make those threes. And Klay's gonna be great for that. Look, he had 0 points in that elimination game, but I don't think Klay's game's gonna drop off too much, especially when he's a shooter, because shooters tend to last a really long time because it doesn't exhilarate as much energy as like a pure scorer. So I think in terms of that, they could get proper longevity out of this. And it was good value for money, getting him $50 million 3 years. So I think this works out very well.
Yeah, completely agree. But you look, they lost Derek Jones Jr. 3 years 30. They signed Najee Marshall 3 years 27. Like, that creates a bit more room to facilitate the Klay Thompson deal as well. So the other thing I'm interested to see is if they bring him off the bench. He averaged more points off the bench this year, averaged just under 20 points per game off the bench. He averaged 17 when he was starting. I don't think they will, but I'm just saying he could be versatile in that role, and I think it's really going to revitalize his career. Tom, did you want to say something?
I mean, yeah, I think he's going to start. But yeah, you got Quentin Grimes. Like, I think Klay Thompson is the perfect role or mentor for Quentin Grimes. They're very similar players. They want to be. Quentin Grimes wants to be a two-way player. I think they're looking good. And another thing about like him leaving the Warriors, he's 34. He wants to get the hell out of there, man. Like, he's got 4 championships. He wants to get another one. And if he gets another one, he can hold that over Curry. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. No, we're going to finish the show on the final topic of the day. And this is because there's always something happening with this team. It's Tyson's Lakers. There's been a whole boatload of things. First, they did sign JJ Redick, just like we did suspect. They did draft Bronny James with the 55th overall pick. They took Dalton Connect with the 17th overall pick. And they have done absolutely nothing in free agency so far. So, Tyson, I will throw it over to you. They've lost out so far in free agency. They haven't got Klay Thompson. They haven't got whoever else they were going to get. They could get DeMar DeRozan. LeBron still hasn't re-signed. JJ Redick, new coach. What are your thoughts on the Lakers? What are they going to do in free agency? And just what is going on with your franchise?
With the Lakers, you can't go an off-season without seeing at least 5 superstars in a jersey swap. That's what I just love about the Lakers. You're such any NBA player, there's a Lakers jersey swap. So there's always talk about coming to LA. But I am a bit bummed that they haven't done anything recently. Like, you got a few players signing back. You know, you're giving Max Christie, extending him, great player, love him. But there's just no, like, we're still missing that plug, like the spark plug. I mean, D'Lo coming back, but are we really going to rely on him again? Like, I really don't know. I'm hoping. I've seen talks about DeMar coming for a 1-year signing thing and then going to free agency, sign a bigger thing. I don't know. Really, no clue what's going on with the Lakers. You know, LeBron's talking to Klay as soon as on the phone straight away, but it was clear Klay didn't want the money. I saw the Lakers were offering something over 20 a year and just didn't want to take it. So I don't know. I really don't know anymore. So kind of hoping Bronny James can be that guy. So yeah.
Wait, I thought the Lakers to get Klay, they had to do a sign and trade, and D'Lo was a part of the trade, and apparently the Warriors didn't want D'Lo. I thought that was part of it.
I heard that too.
I mean, this is rumors. I don't 100% know, but
yeah.
Well, because technically the Mavericks was a sign and trade. They sent 2 first-round picks to the Warriors.
I think that's. I thought that was
picks,
why they struggled to not get a deal.
Look, I don't know exactly how the sign and trade stuff works and what types of players can do a sign and trade versus what types of players can go in a free agency. But Reuben, you are right. They would have had to have done a sign and trade to get Klay to there with the current contracts they have. Otherwise, they would have been into the aprons of a luxury tax.
Because I don't think the Warriors got that much back for Klay in itself. They got 2 second-round picks. Yeah, that was it. Yeah. Look, the Lakers are pretty incompetent with their lack of moves. They need another star. They need more size. Like, you look at that 2020 Lakers team, they had AD with JaVale McGee or AD with Dwight Howard, and that worked really out for them. It worked out well. They need more three-point shooting, but I don't want to just talk about the Lakers. Luka, you're a fan of the Clippers. They've been stinking it up too.
Oh my God! No, they haven't.
No, I was not letting you get away with it. I'm not letting you get away with it, Luka. Absolutely not. The Clippers are okay. You get rid of Paul George for free, who you gave up your entire future for, and Shea and Jalen Williams. You just let him go away for 3. James Harden's on 2-year, $70 million deal, and you're getting Derek Jones Jr. and Nick Batum. What are you talking about, Clippers? And Mo Bamba. The Clippers are just as bad as the Lakers. Both LA teams are stinking it up.
No,
Okay, Luka,
disagree.
What's their ceiling now with not having Paul George with this current roster? And what are they going to do?
Oh,
No, you need to stop right now.
Yeah.
Stop, bro.
I don't know.
Clippers are a mess.
That's their ceiling.
They're
I'm not
just
saying
as bad as the
I don't have them
Lakers.
winning it. I don't have them winning it,
Their
but
ceiling's
that's
a
their
playing
ceiling. Of course it's their ceiling. You're kidding. No, listen. Okay, at the end of the day, yes, the Paul George Kawhi experiment was a huge failure, but also the Clippers have just been rotting for their entire existence, okay? And this was their best chance. At the time, Kawhi Leonard was the reigning Finals MVP. Paul George was top 3 in MVP voting. Of course you're going to go out and get them. Like, that's no duh, okay? They had to go do that to keep their franchise, 1, relevant, 2, compete with the Lakers, who were in, like, have always been the big brother.
Well, Kawhi held them hostage.
Three, to actually give them the best chance they've ever had at winning a championship. They had to do all that. So, look, at the end of the day, it didn't work out, but it was just an unfortunate situation, how it didn't work out. Okay, secondly, what?
It's not an unfortunate situation. It's one of the worst trades ever in NBA history.
Time.
They choked the 3-1 lead when they were healthy against a Denver team in the double.
It was in the bubble.
So
okay,
what? A rig's a rig. They choked it. Come on, Luka. Don't give me that.
Okay,
Kawhi's barely fit.
That's fine. That's fine. But also, there was a lot of stuff surrounding the Clippers in the bubble. They're already dysfunctional in the bubble as it was. Doc Rivers, they didn't even want Doc Rivers to be here. They got rid of him after the bubble was complete because he was a bad coach. What's happened to Doc Rivers now since the Clippers have left? It's not like he's proved the Clippers wrong, so at least the Clippers can say they did something right with firing Doc Rivers, hiring Ty Lue, who is regarded as one of the best coaches in the NBA, and he's been screwed around with because our players have been unavailable. And at the end of the day, that's the reason why the Clippers let Paul George go, and that's the reason why we're killing Philadelphia for signing Paul George, because he's going to be 38 and making $52 million a year, and the Clippers didn't want to commit to that. And we're saying that it's bad for Philadelphia that they signed him to this deal, but we're going to kill the Clippers for letting Paul George go. You can't do both of those things.
Luka, why did the Clippers want to sign Harden 70 mil 2 years? You've historically said
it's a 2-year contract. It's a 2-year contract
for 35 mil a year. You're getting rid of your potential cap space.
But
to improve
the way the NBA works, they chop and change up. I'm just telling you, the James Harden contract was a good contract, okay? With the less years, they chop and change all that salary to fix it up. Harden, if anything, he probably could have gotten more somewhere else, I think. At least with more years. I think a bad team could have offered him a lot more money, and I think the Clippers, with the amount of years they offered him, only being 2 years, it gives the Clippers flexibility to move on from Harden. And $35 million in this day's NBA, we're seeing players making, like we said, Paul George is going to make $52 million. We see Jason Tatum signed for a $314 million extension. He's going to be the first player to make $60 million in an NBA season. That's just under half of what James Harden is just over half of what Tatum has signed for. I don't think when it's only the course of 2 years, that's really that bad of a contract like you're making it out to be, okay? Now, I really, we talk too much about this, but with the Clippers free agency moves themselves, we saw the best thing for them, okay, is to surround them with gritty role players, okay, which takes pressure off Kawhi Leonard, who, at this stage of his career, for him to be effective, he's really only going to have to be an offensive player, okay? Because defensively is where he's most effective, but he's not going to be able to play two sides of the ball. But he is still that gifted of an offensive player where you put the right pieces around him, like he did in Toronto, you can still get something out of him. Okay, Derek Jones Jr. held Paul George to 25% from the field in the playoffs. That's why they went out and got someone like that, because he can defend at a high level. He's a big lob threat, and he's a role player that you want. He's a role player that just went to the NBA Finals with his current team. Okay, similar. Nick Batum, when he was on the Clippers, he had made some huge plays for the Clippers before he got dealt in that Harden deal. Okay, he was a glue guy for the Clippers as well. Now, considering they've lost Paul George, I think they've done the best that they can, and I think they've surrounded them with good players for them to go out and compete with what they have.
Look,
I don't think you can compare the Clippers free agency to the Lakers free agency. The Lakers have just sat back and done absolutely nothing. They haven't got DeMar DeRozan. They haven't got Zach LaVine. They haven't got Trae Young. They wanted Valanciunas, apparently. They didn't get him. They didn't get... Like, they probably would have wanted Caruso back if they could have had him. Like, they could have wanted... Like, there's a bunch of people that the Lakers have been rumored to get, and they've done nothing. At least the Clippers, you can see that they've gone in a direction. They got rid of Plumlee, who's been doing absolutely nothing. Okay, at least Mo Bamba's, like, fresh and young, and is hopefully going to be a bit more reliable as a backup center. Like, I don't think we can just poo-poo on the Clippers when it hasn't really been that bad. If anything, I'm like...
I can tell you now, Mo
about what
Bamba
they've done
sucks at
post
basketball.
PG.
Oh, Luka. Yeah,
no.
Tom, you go. Tom, go.
All right, so Mo Bamba sucks at basketball, first of all. But look, Kawhi, I don't know what direction you're talking about because this team is not getting out of the first round of the playoffs.
If they even get there.
Yeah, like James Harden for $35 million. Yeah, at this day and age, it's not bad, but I just don't understand it. What's the point? They're not going to win anything with this roster. It's not happening. Kawhi's so injury prone. Oh, let me finish,
Yes,
man.
yes, finish.
Kawhi is so injury prone, so he's probably going to get injured sooner or later. This is the first time he's played, he played 68 games last season. That's the first time he's played close to 70 since 2016-17.
But then it was a no-show in the playoffs, so that doesn't mean anything.
Okay, that's fine.
That was the last
time. You just asked me what their ceiling is. The last time I saw Kawhi Leonard
What's
healthy,
their direction?
he won a championship.
What's their direction?
Okay, so their ceiling is a championship. I don't pick them to win the championship. I would agree with you. They're more likely to get knocked out of the first round than win a championship. You just asked me what the ceiling.
Okay, fine. The Pistons ceiling is a championship. I didn't win the question right.
No,
I didn't
stop
win
it. The Pistons ceiling is not a championship.
Kate Cunningham's winning MVP.
Okay, no. Okay, the direction the Clippers are going in is relevance, okay? And these moves and keeping these stars at least gives them relevance. And at the end of the day, with how bad and dysfunctional the Clippers have been as a franchise, consistently making the playoffs and being relevant until they can reload and go again once Kawhi Leonard's contract has expired, that is fine for me, okay? And if that's not fine for you, then so be it, but that's fine for me.
Luka,
okay?
Steve Ballmer got that new stadium. Like, James Harden's going to be having under 10 points in the elimination game. All the new Clipper fans are going to be go Hardy, go 10th turnover in the elimination game.
Maybe, but we
Less
don't
than
have any
10 points.
draft picks, so we might as well be a mediocre team. And
Yeah,
because
because you had the worst trade ever with Paul George. You gave it up for free. The Clippers stink.
But you're asking
Who's
me
your
the
third
direction.
option? Is it Derrick Jones Jr.?
You're asking me the direction
Oh,
and
God.
what I think about this. I'm telling you why they're doing it and why it makes sense and why overall I'm still happy with what they've done based on the situation they've been given. Okay? I'm just answering the question. I'm just answering the question.
Look, we can't... Look, the Lakers have stunk it, but we can't give the Clippers a free pass just because everyone likes talking about the Lakers.
No one's giving the Clippers a free pass. And at the end of the day, Reuben, okay, the reason why we're talking about the Lakers and not the Clippers is because the Lakers are a relevant franchise and people care about what the Lakers are doing and people don't really care as much about what the Clippers are doing.
But you care. You're the host. You care.
Yeah, but I'm the host and I care, but also, like, we appeal to the viewers and the viewers probably don't want to hear me ranting about the Clippers. They probably want to hear us talk about who is the next superstar that the Lakers could realistically actually get, even though they're probably not going to get them. Okay? So it wasn't like I was just like, oh, I don't want them to talk about the Clippers. I'm just going to, like, not put it in the show. I'm fine to talk about the Clippers, but I think out of all the things that have happened in free agency, that's one of the more insignificant things that's happened when you look at the rest of what's happened across the NBA landscape.
Yeah, well, look, going back to the Lakers, like, I don't know what they're going to do. Like, Donovan Mitchell, he recently signed that extension. I don't know how they're going to fit him on the cap space. They need size and they need that third star, but I just don't know who they're going to go for. And I think with DeMar DeRozan, that spacing's going to be an issue because he can't really shoot the three well. And he kind of does become a liability in the playoffs. So I don't know what his fit's going to be in a JJ Redick three-point shooting team.
Well, that's lucky LeBron shooting career high 40%. So take LeBron out to three, and that's done. That's your spacing sorted. Yeah.
The Lakers are an absolute mess right now.
Yeah.
Like Dalton Connect is a huge pickup at the 17th pick. Bronny James, he is not even good enough to play college basketball. At this point, but like, look, like they need a lot of stuff. They need size. They need a better third option than D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell has been so inconsistent, and yeah, they need someone big. I don't know if DeMar DeRozan's gonna be able to do it, but yeah, like if I was them, you need another superstar, and yeah, DeMar DeRozan is the last guy, so I reckon you go for him.
Yeah, I think we are going to have to wrap up after this because I did want to talk about the Lakers more, but unfortunately we did get sidetracked, so we don't actually have that much time left. I want to say two things before we finish. One, I think DeMar DeRozan realistically does work because then that means you would likely work out some sort of way to get D'Angelo Russell out of there, and I'd say LeBron would go back to being the point guard, just like when he led the NBA in assists. I think that makes sense, particularly in his old age. You give more of the scoring load to DeMar DeRozan and to Anthony Davis, who I know, Tom, you took some shots at, but he actually had a really healthy year last year when you look at it. So he's more reliable. We think he's more consistent. He's more of a scoring option. That will give LeBron more time. Particularly he can wait an extra 2 years for Bryce to come up so he can stay ready for his second son to come and play with him. And if DeMar doesn't happen, then it's Trae Young or bust. And I hope the Hawks are rebuilding, because if the Hawks are rebuilding and they want to trade Capella to the Knicks, then at least makes Trae Young available. And I don't really think any two outside of DeRozan and Trae Young the Lakers would pick up that would make them a significantly better team. I don't think LaVine, he's a good player, but I don't think he's really right for that team. I don't think LaVine fits in terms of winning a championship with them. And he's also had his fair share of injuries in the past as well, which I don't think really helps them. And I think he's just similar to like what they have with like Connect and Reeves. Like he's better, but I don't think he is a player of need like a Trae Young or a DeMar DeRozan is. And that's all I really have to say about that.
Agreed.
Great. Perfect. Well, that is all for Priceless Takes, episode 62. Thank you all for tuning in today. We will be back. We will look to start up weekly episodes again, and we'll see how we go now that we are in the off-season. Stay tuned for NFL. NFL is also coming back soon. It'll be around the corner before we know it. And unfortunately, that means we might have to say goodbye to the three lovely panelists who are on our screen. We might see how they go with NFL. I don't know. Maybe they have some knowledge I don't know about. But Thank you to my three panelists, Reuben, Tyson, and Tom. First time on the show today for joining with me. It was a pleasure having the three of you.
Thanks, Luka.
Thanks, man.
That's okay. That is all for Priceless Takes, episode 62. Make sure to check out our Instagram and TikTok, both at the handle Priceless Takes. I'll put them down below in the description. But I am your host, Luka Price. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.